Morning. Thank you. Thanks so much. No, please. It's great to be back in Miami Beach. I'm becoming a regular. We've been doing a lot of business down here. This time I came with my Miami Beach tan after taking my kids on spring break for a little bit last week. We get a little bit of good sun, and I know things are, although, statewide, it's kind of a little bit of a cold front. I think it actually was in the 60s. Even here this morning, we're already in spring, so hopefully we'll get that going back to where we're not having any cold spells, because in North Florida, I think it was 40 degrees when we left to come down here. But I'm happy to be here. Happy to be with Mayor Minor. We've also got Representatives Garrison, we have Basabi, Rizzo, Redondo, Garcia, Senators, John Martin, Senator Eliana Garcia, and then Giorgio's, the owner here. I want to thank you for hosting us. And before we do today's business with the legislation we're going to sign, I think it's important to point out that over a month ago, we were down in Miami Beach, probably even longer than that, and we talked about the need to ensure that we would address this issue that has plagued communities across the country, where these homeless camps overwhelm just the quality of life. But as we were doing that, we also said that we want to make sure when people come during the spring break weeks that they're having fun, enjoying Florida, but that's not overwhelming with unruly crowds or harming businesses or violence or any of the things like that. And I think once COVID hit, we were kind of the only place where people can come and be normal. And so a lot of people descended on Miami Beach. There was a couple other spots, but there were things that went. So we had to put people in the middle of spring break by request of the locals. We sent. So I told the mayor, I said, we're here to help. Let's do it on the front end. And we made that offer everywhere around the state. And a lot of people took us up on it. And I can tell you, because of the work of the mayor, the work of other leaders throughout other municipalities, we've seen spring break come. We've seen a lot of people here, but you have not seen what you've seen in years past. And so I think that that's a great success. We got more to do. But ultimately, the issue with the spring break plays in, to me, it's a similar thing to when we're dealing with this issue of these homeless encampments. We have to govern this state and our communities with an eye towards what's in the best interest of the law-abiding citizen, what's in the best interest of families who are trying to raise kids, what's in the best interest of our seniors who are here to retire. That's what it's got to be. And too often, it's like people in other states and other cities around that are not doing well, it's like they let the inmates run the asylum. That doesn't work. You have to make sure that everything we're doing is geared to that quality of life, public safety. Those are non-negotiable. And so the spring break thing, people are having fun, but we want the residents down here to be able to live their lives without having these things happen. We want the businesses to be able to function without having to close because you have crowds too much. Same thing when you're dealing with this issue of homelessness. If you look around the country, you're seeing people fleeing from some previously vibrant metropolitan areas like San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. People down here in South Florida know that very well because a lot of those people are moving here, and they've been moving here for many years now. And why not? Florida, we're #1 for new business formations 4 years running. We're the largest net domestic in-migration state year after year. And we're #1 in GDP growth amongst all large states since 2019. Part of, I think, what you've seen is people that have come here have said Florida takes public safety serious, where the places they were leaving were not taking it serious. And some of that is being soft on crime, which we're not here in the state of Florida. And I'll commend the legislatures. They put great bills through we'll be signing in the ensuing weeks to ensure that we keep the momentum going as a law and order state and as a leader on law and order throughout this country. So that's very important. But I'll tell you, the number of families who would say they had to leave some of these areas because you'd have drug use just rampant in public. You'd have homeless overwhelming You could just like on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, just a massive encampment shows up. That is not the way you can have strong communities. That is not the way you have good governance. That's not healthy for society. So we've seen what hasn't worked. And if you look at 2023, one of the publications published the top 10 cities with the largest homeless populations. 6 of the top 10 were in one state, California. LA number 2, San Diego 4, San Jose 6, Oakland 7, Sacramento 9, San Francisco 10. It's almost 180,000 homeless in the state of California. Seattle was number 4 on that list, and number 1, not surprisingly, was New York City with 88,000 homeless. And so you're seeing an increase in homeless encampments throughout some of these areas. It's interesting, in Florida, San Francisco is actually slightly smaller than the city of Jacksonville, yet San Francisco's homelessness problem has cost their taxpayers $1.1 billion in 2022 alone. That's almost 80% of Jacksonville's entire city budget. So this is just something that is not sustainable, and that model has absolutely failed. Now, we're the 3rd largest state in the country. We do not have any cities in the top 10 with respect to homeless. And part of that, I think, is because we have different policies. But it's interesting, we've seen homeless population throughout the country grow between 2019 and 2022 by 3%. Over that same period of time, Florida's population of homeless declined by 11%. So when you're going in the right direction, that's good. But when you're going in the right direction against the national tide going in the other, that's even better. So we've seen what this has done to these communities, and we don't want that to happen here in the state of Florida. So that's why today I'm signing HB 1365. It will help maintain and ensure that Florida streets are clean and that Florida streets are safe for our residents. This legislation prohibits camping on city streets, sidewalks, and parks. It creates state enforcement tools to ensure that local governments comply with this law, and it ensures that localities utilize the resources of homeless shelters to provide individuals with the safety and services that they need. And there are needs that need to be met, but doing the San Francisco and New York model is not a way to get the job done. The bill also provides alternatives for when homeless shelters have reached max capacity, but this is going to require that their services are there to help people get back on their feet. Things like substance abuse and mental health, those issues need to be addressed, and this bill ensures that that will be the case. So I think that this is an example of, yeah, I cited the statistics, Florida's declined, these other places are going up in terms of these homeless. You've seen the encampments and all these other places. It's not good, of course. We could just sit back and say, oh yeah, look how much worse they are, you know, we don't need to do. But I think it's a credit to the legislature that they leaned in on this. I'm happy to be able to sign the legislation because I think it's important that we maintain the quality of life for the residents in the state of Florida. I want this to continue to be a place where people can raise families in security and in safety. I want people to be able to retire here in safety and security. And I think this is going to be an important part to that. So I want to thank everybody who had anything to do with this legislation. We talked about this issue many weeks ago down here in Miami Beach, and today we're making good on that promise by signing a legislation to ensure that we don't allow our streets, our parks, and our sidewalks to be overwhelmed with tent cities and homeless encampments. And with that, we'll hear from some of our other speakers. I have our mayor here in Miami Beach, Mayor Miner. Come on up.
Thank you, Governor, and state legislatures, and everybody who's here. And welcome to Miami Beach, the law and order city, and the law and order state of Florida. So late last year, our commission passed legislation that is so necessary, basically saying that if you're homeless and you're sleeping in the public right away, it gives our law enforcement the tools to try to get them the help that they need, to offer them the shelter. And if they refuse, the officer has the discretion to make the arrest. And oftentimes, it's individuals we see over and over again on the street. And that's one aspect of so much more legislation that we're working on. And obviously, this spring break, and I don't want to jinx it, but it has been phenomenal. And thank you to the governor and to law enforcement and to our commission for putting in and implementing robust measures to make sure everyone was safe. And we've had the best spring break in a long time. And I'll tell you, the governor told me before spring break, we are committed in the state of Florida to providing the resources that you need in Miami Beach and obviously elsewhere in the state. And they came through. I asked for a lot, and then I asked for more, and they delivered, and then some. And you see the results. And by the way, a lot of businesses have told me that they've done better this year than they have in years past. So it's working, it's calm, we're still busy. We're a beautiful city, we're a tourist city, and we're still busy, but without the level of crowds and violence that we've seen in past years. So implementing this type of legislation regarding the homeless is so necessary for our residents, for our businesses, to make sure that our streets are clean and that they're safe. Public spaces are for the public. We always have to remember, it seems obvious, but sometimes that gets lost. Having criminal activity or drug use openly on the street is not acceptable here in Miami Beach, and evidently not in the state of Florida as well. But it's also compassionate legislation that we've done here in Miami Beach, and what this legislation does. It helps people. It's increasing funding for shelters. It's increasing funding for mental health treatment. It's increasing funding for substance abuse treatment. This will absolutely help people. And sometimes it's a little bit of tough love, but it's necessary tough love. You know, we have a municipal prosecution team here in Miami Beach that handles misdemeanors, many misdemeanors, and I'm very proud that we're actually successfully prosecuting at a 90% clip right now, which is incredible. But one of the things we also do is offer help to individuals, including homeless individuals. We offer reduced charges as part of our municipal prosecution program for individuals who complete mental health treatment or addiction treatment. We actually will drop charges sometimes if they complete those programs. But we're also prosecuting to make sure that repeat offenders are not consistently ruining things and hurting our public safety for residents and businesses alike. So necessary, and I have to give a shout out to our law enforcement, because ultimately the legislation that this does and the legislation that our commission passed late last year gives law enforcement the tools. They are professional, they are compassionate, I've seen it in action, I can attest to it, but they also need to have the tools necessary to make sure they can do their job. So a big shout out to our Chief Wayne Jones, our homeless outreach director, Albatara, and her team are here as well. Shout out to them. But really, I'm so proud of our commission, and I have several of our commissioners here. Commissioner Alex Fernandez, Commissioner Joe Magazine, Commissioner David Suarez. We have made it loud and clear here in Miami Beach and to the world, law and order reigns supreme here. We are focused on it, we are legislating to it, we're implementing it, and it really helps to obviously have a governor and state legislators who are all on the same page. Could not be more appreciative of their help. I keep saying, and I'm gonna keep saying it again, my mission, our mission as a commission is to make Miami Beach the safest city in America, and I will not stop till we accomplish that goal, and I really appreciate it, and I think with our partnership, we are going to get there. Thank you all. God bless you.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon. My name is Sam Garrison. I represent House District 11. I want to thank Speaker Renner, Speaker Designate Perez, and my House colleagues, Basabe, Redondo, Rizzo, Garcia, for their support in this particular legislation. And thank you, Governor, for highlighting the issue nationally, on a national stage, and the importance of communities. I love Florida. My community in Clay County is about as different from Miami Beach, Fabian, as it is possible to be. But it's part of what makes Florida so great. And I preach the virtues of this state with the zeal of the converted, because I was born and raised in Illinois, which has taken a very different approach to some of these quality of life issues. And you appreciate, as many people in this room have who have come from other places and found their home, their true home here in Florida, you appreciate what we have here when you've seen places that have lost it. When you travel, not just to California, and you go to Denver, you go to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and you see great cities that we grew up idolizing and thinking just so fondly of, being brought to their knees with families not comfortable to have their kids out and walk down the street, business owners closing shop because it's just not safe and their customers aren't going to come to them anymore. Or just the lack of civic pride, quite frankly, when your downtown turns into a de facto homeless encampment. It should make you angry, but it should also make you sad. Sad from the standpoint that some of these communities in other parts of the country have, instead of taking bold action, as the governor has initiated here in Florida in his time in office, and the legislature certainly has done our part for many generations. But instead of taking that bold action, seeing a problem, being pragmatic and trying to figure out how do we solve it, other parts of our nation sadly have embraced comfortable inaction. And that's just not how we do business in the state of Florida. I love Florida, and we're going to do whatever we can to protect it and preserve it for the next generation. And whether it's Miami Beach or Fleming Island or Tallahassee or all parts in between, what this legislation does, it says, you know what the mayor was talking about, the needs of Miami Beach are unique to Miami Beach, and we want to encourage and incentivize creative approaches to how to deal with the situation of chronic unsheltered homelessness. But with that, what we are saying as a state is we are putting the guardrails up and saying certain things, we want to give latitude to local governments and encourage them to take on these initiatives. But one thing is for sure, and that is we are going to protect and fight for our public spaces, our parks, our libraries, the sidewalks we walk down. These things are worth fighting for, because if you lose them, you lose something much more important. And once you lose it, it's very, very difficult to get back. And it's going to cost you 10 times more on the back end than it will on the front end. So, Governor, thank you for your leadership on this issue. Thank you, Senator Martin, for your partnership. And like I said, to Speaker Renner, Speaker Desmond Perez for their support in this issue. It's great to be a Floridian, proud of what we're doing. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Hey, good morning, South Beach. My name is Jonathan Martin. I'm a state senator, District 33, which is the western half of Lee County. I'm not the exact opposite of Clay County. I'm not the exact opposite of South Beach, but we have some shared values between both areas. We love our beaches. We love our warm weather. You guys don't get so warm in the wintertime up in Clay County. It feels like it should snow sometimes up there as well as in Tallahassee. But because of climate issues, this is an issue that, of course, affects all of Florida, but specifically South Florida. In the wintertime, when it's sub-zero temperature in Chicago or New York, we see a lot of homeless get on buses and they come to South Florida. So this bill, what I love about it, Governor, it shows that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. In Florida, we can protect our public spaces, but we can take care of our homeless. And I think one of the missing pieces that we've had, when you drive through any part of the state of Florida, we have incredible organizations, not-for-profit organizations. We have incredible government agencies, DCF, Department of Health. They do a lot. They work in tandem with our not-for-profits and our religious organizations as well, like Salvation Army or your local churches, local synagogues. They do incredible work. And this isn't a bill to say that you guys haven't been doing your job. This is a bill to say, let's help. So what we did, we set up a framework. And this bill sets up a framework. It doesn't micromanage those organizations. It doesn't micromanage entities and say this is what you have to do when you're taking care of individuals with substance abuse issues, mental health issues, or maybe just economic issues that's forced them to be homeless. What we're saying is we can do better. We can synergize. We can put everybody in one place, not just the homeless, but we can put the not-for-profits and those that are helping in one location. I've heard stories of individuals that have to go through the woods in some parts of the state and in the mangroves in my part of the state and find some of these homeless encampments. One just got bit by a dog recently. These are situations where you're not going to have elderly volunteers or high school kids or college kids on spring break helping out because of the dangers that are associated with going to help homeless individuals. But if they're in a location like this bill describes, where there's security, there's oversight from the Department of Children and Families, we can get more people working together at a much less expense, have quicker follow-up, and provide actual meaningful change in individuals' lives. So this bill is cutting edge. It's something that If we had seen California do this or New York City do this years ago, they wouldn't be in these situations, but hopefully we're going to make a real big difference in the lives of Floridians and those who have mental health issues, those who are homeless for economic reasons, or those who are suffering from substance abuse as well. So thank you, Governor, for your leadership. Thank you, Representative Garrison. Thank you to the legislators that are here who helped us, Senator Garcia, who I sit next to on the floor in the Senate. It's good to see your face. And you represent South Beach. So thank you very much for this, and I look forward to seeing the positive impact this has all throughout the state of Florida.
I call you my president. I got so many phone calls from business owners, hotel owners, restaurant owners, all in the hospitality business to thank you and thank our mayor, the commissioner, Chief Jones. It was the best spring break we ever had. It was the first year that restaurants, hotels didn't have to close down. It was the first year we didn't have to hire private security. We had such a nice clients. We had good tourists, residents stayed here, and we had many of our businesses made more money than last year. We had no damages. We had the years before people just ran into businesses, taking alcohol, breaking tables, walking out with not paying the bills. And this year was the best spring break ever. And I want to thank Chief Jones, our mayor, the commissioner, and the best governor ever. Thank you for coming up with this bill. It will help first the homeless people. We are facing here a lot of mental problems, and these poor people don't want to do even what they are doing. But we had people putting hotels in fire. We had people attacking tourists. I was attacked by homeless bringing food to him. And these people, it's not even their fault. They need mental help, and the bill will help first the homeless people. And it's about time to clean Miami Beach, whole Florida. I worked all over Europe in the hospitality business. Florida is the nicest state, most beautiful nature, and we have all year summer, and it's the best state to live. And I want to go back, COVID time. Thank you for giving us free speech and democracy, and keep us open, stay alive, and doing business. Democracy, free speech. Thank you.
Give your website. Give the restaurant's name and website.
We are here at Santorini Bajorgios in the nicest corner in the world, Miami Beach and Florida.
Are you breakfast and or lunch and dinner, or just dinner?
We are here 24/7. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. We have a beach club.
Oh, okay. Well, there you guys know your next place to
But
go.
I want to see you in the White House.
All right. You guys want to get this done? We'll go sign. You guys, we're going to go. We'll make it whoever wants to come up. All right. I get good at the dates as we get to the end of March because I've got two kids who have birthdays at the end of March, and so it's always on our calendar. All right, so who wants one? All right, Sam. All right, you want one? There you go. There you go. Anyone else in the peanut gallery? City Hall. Oh, City Hall? Yeah. All right. There you go. All right, there it is. So you want to maybe explain this? So you may want to explain this so people don't think that we've gone crazy here. Okay. You gonna explain it?
We have a tradition in ancient Greece. We were breaking plates for people we love and honor. and look up to them. Also, it sends away bad vibes and brings luck and success and health. And congratulations again to everything you're doing for us.
Okay. Well, my wife sometimes says I'm a bull in a china shop, so I guess here we go.
You have a Greek name, Dion.
There you go. All right. So we gonna do it? All right. Just
And we need to say Opa.
So it's 1, 2, 3, Opa.
1, 2, 3. Opa! Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Are we going to take some questions, then clean it up, or what are we going to do? All right. Hopefully nobody's barefoot for this, but yeah, we hope that brings a lot of good luck, and we're thankful for the progress. And to hear Georgios talk about the difference this spring break approach has made, that has a huge impact on quality of life, business, all these things. And so we're happy to. We know that the time's not over, but the resources are in place, and that's really the way to do it. So good job for everyone who's been working hard here on the ground and in other parts throughout the state of Florida. It's made a big difference for people. Okay, with that, yes, ma'am.
Should we expect you to join former President Trump on the campaign trail ahead of November?
So I think one of the interesting things about is this state, before I came on the scene, was a one-point state. It is no longer a one-point state, and that's just the reality. This is not going to be a state that's competitive in November, and that's just the reality. So I don't anticipate there being much campaign here for the top of the ticket. I do think there's going to be some local races that are going to be very important that we'll be involved with. And then how I can help nationally, I want to be able to do that. I don't know exactly, but normally in these elections in Florida, you would never want to leave Florida because this is like you got to kind of get every vote. And I'm not saying you don't have to work hard, but when I got elected, there were almost 300,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans in the state. And there had never been more Republicans than Democrats in the history of Florida. Today, there's about 850,000 more registered Republicans than Democrats. I mean, that's just a big change. And that's been driven partially by migration, partially by people switching over. And I think it shows a lot of great success. And so as people look at kind of how the election will turn out, I don't think Florida is going to be a place where you're going to see a lot of activity. And that'll be the first time in probably most of our lifetimes where that's been the case, maybe since Ronald Reagan, when he was running up the big margins there. Every other time, it's like you can't turn on a TV. I mean, I remember in 2016, 2020, turn on the TV. I mean, it's like nonstop ads. I don't think that's going to be the case this time.
Governor, about this bill in particular. In the city of Miami, for example, even if there's more money for drug addiction programs, for mental health assistance, there's the chronic homeless that do not want to participate in these programs, and they choose to stay on the streets, and they're the ones that end up sleeping in tents under
But they're not going to. That's the beauty of this bill
what
is.
happens with them?
It's one thing, and courts have ruled like hey, kicking somebody off the street if you don't have a shelter or anything like that. They've said that's unconstitutional. I'm not sure that's the original understanding. James Madison would have said that, but nevertheless, that's what courts have said. But what you have here, what the mayor's doing, he's providing them here's where you can go, and if they refuse, then you absolutely have the right to arrest them and remove them from being effectively a public nuisance at this place. And look. These are difficult issues. Some people fall on hard times. I know there's mental health issues running rampant. I know drug issues. These are difficult issues. But you should not be accosted by a homeless like we see. You should be able to walk down the street and live your life. And so this bill and what some of the local governments have done is just going to make that clear. We're going to have clean sidewalks. We're going to have clean parks. We're going to have safe streets. And that's just going to be the case. All the other things, mental health, drug substance abuse, we want to offer that, but that's got to be offered in a way that is not going to impinge on the public's right to have a high quality of life in the state of Florida. So I think this is the absolute right balance to strike. I don't think there's any other way you could approach it and expect to have a result different than what's happened in places like San Francisco and New York City. So good on the legislature for being thoughtful on it, and they have looked at all these different issues too, and they're real issues, and these are issues we're gonna have to contend with. But we've just got to get it out of our system in our country that somehow anyone has a right to just camp out on the sidewalk and inconvenience other people. That's not what those sidewalks are meant for. And so we want to make sure that we put public safety above all else, and I think this bill does that.
DeSantis, jumping off the elections question, we had a primary in Florida yesterday. I have two questions for you. Who did you vote for, and what do you make of the results? You came in third, but Trump dropped 14 points compared to where he was 4 years ago.
Well, but I mean, part of that, people are saying that and they're trying to ding Trump, but people don't forget, Haley was a candidate when mail ballots went out. It wasn't an uncontested primary. She was a live candidate. People sent in mail ballots who maybe didn't want Trump. It wasn't that he was uncontested. And so you have to think, our election in Florida goes like 6 weeks. So it wasn't just yesterday. And in fact, I haven't looked at the data. I would imagine a minority of the votes were cast yesterday. Most of them were cast early. So I don't think that that's a ding on Donald Trump, given that those mail ballots went out when she was still actively campaigning. But here's the big takeaway from yesterday. The Florida Democratic Party is like the best opposition party we could ever ask for. They canceled their presidential primary because they feared Biden may get embarrassed by not getting a high enough percentage. And what did that do? That totally tanked their turnout. And that gave Republicans an ability to win like the Delray Beach mayor, which is like not exactly been solid Republican territory. So it's a major own goal that they did. They have a real serious habit of just doing dumb things over and over again. And look, I mean, in some respects, just as a Floridian, you look, it's like, why would you do? But I mean, as a Republican, great. I'm really happy that they continue to shoot themselves in the foot. They have dug themselves a hole. You have over a 1.1 million registration swing just since I got elected in November of 2018. And here's the thing, and I've put money in, raised money for voter registration drives. None of that ultimately moves the needle very much. This is organic movement. These are people that are choosing to abandon the Democratic Party, people that are moving to the state because they appreciate the different policies that we've implemented to keep people safe, to have low taxes, to have a budget surplus. These guys delivered another surplus. And I'm going to have to trim a little bit off the budget when I go through the vetoes, but we've paid down 25% of the state's total debt just since I've been governor. And so you're looking at a state that's well governed. And I always get from people that when they move from places like New York, they'll say, your roads are better than our roads. Your services are better, your schools. Yeah, and we do it with half the budget. Imagine that. So I think that's the big picture is, before I got elected, people were saying Florida was going to be a blue state in 5 years. That's what everyone was saying, and that's totally not been the case. Their decision to not hold the primary, I think, contributed to a really low turnout for them. And it gave us an ability to win a lot of these local races. And people don't put as much emphasis on that in kind of the national political scene, but this is really important stuff. In my election in 22, people focused on, yeah, we won big, overall, 20-point margin, which we won this county by double digits, which Republicans haven't been able to do, and that's great. But what you saw was you now have a majority Republican county commission in Palm Beach County. You have majority Republicans in Hillsborough, Miami-Dade School Board. We've elected great people. They have a working majority there. This is really important when you start talking about some of the stuff that happens down ballot. And I think if you look at 2024 in Florida, I don't think the top of the ticket is going to be competitive, but I do think that there's going to be some really significant races more on the local level. And we're just more built to be able to do well in those races now than the Democrats are, given everything that happened. All right, guys, we'll see you later. Thank you.